Hide. Then so I think you should be able to see my screen right now. Excellent. So
I can see it.
yeah, that's good. Let me just maximize this. Um that's better, right? Or I've thought.
You have stopped again.
I don't know why it's giving me an issue when it comes to recording. Probably it does not want me to be able to. Does not want me to be able to share. Let me see the recording. Is it on? Yeah, the recording is actually on. So probably I'll edit it later. Entire screen, maybe a window. Where is that window? It's uh, it's this. So this one does not allow control. So I think when I jump into full screen mode, it refuses to record. But anyway, let me just have it not on full screen. But so I realize that if I put it on full screen mode, then I'm not able to share my screen. So as I was discussing, we just get straight to our point of discussion. We were discussing about arrays last time. I think we looked at the few control functions that were left. So we looked at arrays, we looked at indexed arrays, and how they worked. And we also looked at associative arrays and how they work. We looked at how we can filter arrays. I think we looked at how we can look through items in the array. We looked at how we can merge the array and things like that. So I think we stopped at filtering arrays, isn't it? So
Yeah.
today I want to move to something else, and this is sorting the arrays. And sorting arrays is very important because most of the time we'll come up with data, and once we have this data, we want to be able to filter it and sort it out so that now we can be able to send it over to the client who will now be able to utilize the data on their end. So I want us to look at how we can sort these arrays. So array sorting. So when it comes to array sorting, I think I'll mask these codes that we did last time so that I can have a clean slate down here. So for us to sort an array, there's no function for sorting an array, but there's a sort array that is generally available in PHP that allows us to be able to sort the array. So it's not a method like filter, but basically just a general sort which allows us to sort an array. So let's say, for example, we have an array of say numbers. And numbers, usually PHP variables start with dollar sign. And numbers is an array of numbers. Say something like, let me say something like, it's frozen. Ooh, I don't know why it's misbehaving today. Why is it misbehaving today? Okay. So I have an array of numbers. So let me put numbers here like something like 6 and 2 and 4 and 11 and 34 and 8 and 114 and 4 and another 8, another 109 and 13. So we have this array over here. So let's sort this array so that now we are able to have the numbers as two, let me put some 3 here somewhere, right? 2, 3, 4, and so forth and so forth. Okay. For us to do that, there's function called sort like that, which allows us to sort an array. Now, what it will do, it will sort the array, and of course, also it will also re-index the keys of the array. So this is index, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so on. When it sorts them out, then the first number 2 the key will change. That's what I mean when I say it will also change the array itself. So I can say here numbers. Don't know what's happening with the mouse today. Um, don't know what's happening with my mouse, but I think it's okay. So I'll say new numbers equals sort this array called numbers. And of course, we can come back and now be able to output the new array simply by saying print r, isn't it? We know that that will print the array with their indexes. So new numbers, new number. Okay, should have put an S that way. So semicolon here. Now that will sort it in ascending order. So it will take this array, sort it in ascending order, and of course also reindex the keys, which is essentially what we want it to do. So I'll come back to my browser here. I'll open. The machine has become overly slow today. I don't know why.
Mine is also slow. The laptop. I don't know what has happened.
It's a thing that they decided to do today. Anyway,
I don't know what's happened. Windows 11 is G.
localhost. We were talking about PHP intro, and then we're talking about arrays. So when I do that, well, new numbers. Okay, there's an error line number 104. New numbers. So I put semicolon here. I think I missed that. So, well, why is it giving me new numbers? Is yeah, I've sorted the array. Yeah, why is it? This is numbers. That's strange. Should have sorted and given me. Well, let me just sort it and display it down here without assigning it to a new variable. But that's strange. It should have worked. That's strange. It should have worked. I don't know why it's not working when I'm assigning it to a new variable. But sort works. That one I'm sure 100%. I can tell you for free sort works. So you can see now I start with 2, then 3, then 4, then 4, then 6, then 8, then 8, then 11, then 13, then 14, 34, 100, then 100. So technically, I have been able to sort up that array using the sort method. So there's a function called sort which allows you to be able to sort an array. Now, what if I wanted to sort it in the reverse? If I wanted to sort it in the reverse, I would say reverse sort or R sort. R sort would sort it in the reverse. So if I was to run that back, so you can now see it starts with 109, 100, and then it ends all the way to 2. So depending on how you want to sort, you can use sort, which is ascending order, or R sort, which is sort in the reverse order, or sort in descending order. This is for indexed arrays only. So this sort will work for indexed arrays only. So we'll work for only indexed arrays. So you cannot use sort for associative arrays. That thing will not work. Okay? So what if I have an indexed array and I want to be able to sort it out? So that is indexed array. Let's work with associative arrays. So sorting associative arrays. Okay. Sorting associative arrays. So let me try and increase the font size. So view, there is usually zoom control plus. So they say control plus, control minus. That's better. So that's more readable. All right, so sorting associative array. So let's say we have an array here called students. And students is an associative array with variable elements. Of course, we label it like that. So I have a admission number. Well, I think I can use the one that we had at the top so that I don't type a lot. I have one here. Let me work with this. I have this array that is made up of these objects. So how do we sort this array? So I have these numbers down here. I can mix and match them up so that we're sure that they actually line up correctly once we have sorted them out, isn't it? So how do we sort this? So to sort this one, there is a function called asort or associative array sort. So here I'm simply going to say asort. Then I'm going to give the associative array inside here, which is basically these employees. Then now, sorry, I missed the, okay, I put it outside. Let me move it on the inside. So I'd like to sort these employees array. Then from there, I can actually go ahead and now display it. So I can simply say print r. I don't want to loop through the elements in the array. We just want to see it sorted. So that's what's important. Otherwise, we know how to loop through them. We can use a for each loop to loop through each of the elements and be able to output them as we need to. So if I did that and I came and ran this over here, I should be able to see, well, I think I missed a semicolon. I'm notorious with that. I don't know why. And it only happens when I'm teaching. When I'm writing my code, it doesn't happen so much. So now you can see it has sorted it. I'm starting at nt001. Then I'm going to nt002. Then probably let me just shrink this a bit. I have nt001, 002, 003, 004, and I can go on and on and on, isn't it? So it is actually sorted it out because if you look at the original array, I'm starting with 1, 4, 3. Well, I can even start with 3 at the top so that you confirm that it sorts it out nicely. I can start with 3 at the top. Sorry. I can start with 3 at the top. Then, of course, once I run this, you'll still be able to see that I still end up at exactly the same place. So I have 1, 2, and 3. So I'm actually sorting it based on these values over here. Okay?
Okay.
So that is how you work. So when you use sort, what it will do is that it will sort dot associative array in ascending order based on the value. So based on these values and not the keys. Remember, we have the key and we have the value. So it will sort it based on values over here. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what if I want to sort that in reverse?
Does it have the R?
Yeah, you put AR sort. So AR sort will actually sort it in the reverse. So whenever you want to sort in the reverse, simply use AR sort. So associative array reverse sort. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what if I want to sort it based on the keys? So that is these. Well, of course, technically these keys are all payload numbers, so this might not work out very well. But if I wanted to sort them out based on the keys, I will use something called the K sort. Okay.
Okay.
So we have a key sort. It will sort out based on keys. So now the problem here is that these keys are the same. So technically, I'll not be able to achieve that. But if I say this one is key number 3, and this one is key number 2, and this one is key number 1, and this one is key number 4, then it will sort them based on these keys when I say key sort, which means key sort. Okay? So sometimes you have that, and as you can see, now it should be able to sort us out. So I have the key here is when I started at 2. I started at 1. I should see 1. Where is 1?
0, 2.
I should see 1. Element 0 is 2. Element 1 has 3. But I thought I had 1 with, yeah, this should have come first. Let me see. Well, maybe let me put them as numbers because sometimes when you have them as, though technically I hardly ever use that. I don't sort with keys. Very hardly do we sort with keys.
Yeah,
Very
okay.
hardly do we sort with keys. We usually sort with data that the user is going to read, not the key, so to speak. But of course, there is a function that allows us to be able to sort by key. I don't know why it is because the key for the first one is 2, the key for the second one is 1.
Um,
I don't know why it has. Let me try reverse key sort. Yeah, yeah. I think maybe it could be searching using the age. Let me just confirm. 13, then 21, then 15. No, it's not sorting by the age also. Then 18. It's not sorting by the age either. So Um, well, I don't know why that's not working, but we have KSort and KR sort. These ones are for sorting based on the keys. But again, I don't know why that is actually not working. So now I have 1, which is what I expected. Then 2, which is what I expected. So no, this is index 3, which
yeah,
is
3.
1. This is index 2, which is 4. This is index 1, which is 3, and so on and so on. Yeah, so of course, as I've mentioned, very hardly do I use key sorts, but it's a function that is available for you to sort your arrays in the event that you need to sort it out. So I just wanted to clear that up, that when it comes to arrays, we can sort them out either in ascending or descending manner using sort or rsort, and we can also sort our associative arrays based on their values using AR sort or using sort rather and AR sort. Those are the ones that we use the most. Okay,
Okay.
so that is something that we ought to have finished during the last class, but I think for some strange reason we were not able to complete it. So I think that should now be very, very clear, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's look at what we ought to have done today, which is one of the best things about PHP, and this is about object oriented programming. So I want us to do OOP in PHP so we see what it really is all about. So object-oriented programming in PHP. So I'm sure you know what object-oriented programming is. We have done object-oriented programming for like forever now. So let me just undo this and start PHP here. Now, when it comes to object-oriented programming in PHP, we have what we call the key features that we discuss in object-oriented programming. And within these key features, I want us to discuss classes and objects. Classes, a class basically, as we had discussed before, is a blueprint which will allow you to create objects or a particular data structure. So a blueprint, say something like you want to bake a cake. If you want to bake a cake, you need that template where now I can be able to pour my ingredients, then I'm able to form a cake based on that particular shape, isn't it? So that's what a class really is. So for you to define a class in PHP, we'll use the keyword class. Then we'll give the name of the class, let's say car over here. Then I'll put they're called curly braces. Then now inside here, I'll be able to define two things that I want in my class. And the two things that we work with in classes are either properties and methods. So properties are basically variables and methods are functions. So we are going to discuss this elaborately in detail, and this is what we're going to use to build our application as we move along. So let's say, for example, we have car and the car has properties. Let's say car has something like a year, a model, and probably maybe a make. So I can say here the car has a make, the car has a year, and the car has a model, isn't it?
A model.
Like that. But of course, now you have to make these ones either private, public, or protected. But I'll start with public. I'll explain what these access modifiers are. So for now, just focus on the public one, like that. So those are public. Okay.
Hmm.
So these are what we're referring to as properties. So they are the properties as far as a car is concerned. But then there's something called a method, which now we can be able to invoke so that now we perform some specific function. So something like describe for me the car. So I can say something like function describe car, like that, isn't it?
Mhm.
So this describe car, then I'll decide what I want it to do down here. So I'll simply say something like this. I'll simply say echo or return. Then I'd probably say something like, let me use a template string, echo, and I'll say the car is a. Then of course I'll use this keyword to refer to the current object, and I'll say make. Then I'll say this dot model manufactured in the year. Then I'll put this dot, sorry, this dot year. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I was to run this code, what would it do?
I think it will not display
You-
what we are asking it to display,
Why?
because so far the class doesn't have any of the car that is the object car in it.
So you're right. The class as at the moment this is a template. It does not know anything. Okay. So what I can do is I can create a new object because this is a template.
Mm.
Then I can create a new object of type car. Then I give it the properties. Then I ask it to describe itself, isn't it? So what I'll
Yeah.
do here, I'll simply say define a new variable called my car, and my car is of type car. Okay.
Mhm.
Now then I can say my car. Then I give it the make. I say this is Toyota. Then I can go ahead and say my car. Then I put the other property which is here. I'll say this was done in 2020. Then I can come and say semicolon, not commas. And please remind me when I forget semicolons. My car. Then I can change the model. Maybe say this is Toyota Crown. Crown, Crown, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then I can go ahead and now say my car, then execute the following method, which is describe car. Okay. So
Yeah.
that would now allow me to take this variable, this class car, modify these variables because they are public. So I'll modify the variables here. Then I can now call this method over here, which now allows me to output the details of the car. So let's run that and see how it works out. So I'll come here and I'll say, let's talk about OOP.php. Line number 5, maybe most commonly it's a semicolon. You'll forgive me for that. Um,
Up there.
yeah, there's another one still. Where is there's another one here? I missed that. There's probably yeah, these other ones are okay. Maybe these ones should be semicolons. And by that I don't need to put public. By default, if I don't put public, they become public, eh?
Okay.
By default. So run that. Now you can see the car is a Toyota Crown manufactured in the year 2020.
20.
Why is this important? Well, once you start writing proper applications, abstraction is a very important element in object-oriented programming because it simplifies the code and makes it very, very easy for us to be able to maintain a smaller portion of code. As you're going to see, when you start connecting to a database and we're fetching data back and forth, then these classes start becoming a very, very important element for us to be able to discuss how they work out. Okay,
Yeah.
so that is how you define a class. Then you can define its properties. Then you can define its methods. So we said properties are variables, and of course, functions are methods. Those
Methods.
are things that we execute or that we execute as far as an object is concerned. And this is what we call object-oriented programming in PHP. We're just getting started. We will make these more complicated as we move along. So then we have what we call access modifiers as far as um, access modifier, or some people call them visibility. They can be used interchangeably. So these ones define how variables can be accessed either within the class or from outside the class. Okay? And we
Yeah.
have three modifiers. We have the default one, which is public. And public means they can be accessed from anywhere, isn't it? Accessed from anywhere. So, like for example, I made these ones public so I can be able to access them outside the class. Okay?
Mhm.
That is public. Well, it will depend on what you're talking about. For example, if I'm talking about a username and a password, public may not be a very good idea to access usernames and passwords outside the class itself, isn't it? So
Yeah.
something like a username and a password connected to a database might not be public variables, but things like table names and maybe the database name itself and all that, those ones can become public, isn't it? So it will
Yeah.
depend on what you want to become public versus what you want to become the other modifiers which we're going to discuss. So besides public, we have another one called protected. Protected. So protected means they can be accessed. They can be accessed from the class or inherited classes. We're going to see that in a short while. So when I make it protected, I can access it from this class or from any class that it has inherited from or that is inheriting from it. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's protected. Then we have the most restrictive one, private. So this can only be accessed in the class. So in a nutshell, if I was to change this from public to protected, what would work? What would happen rather?
Then it will mean that they will not be accessible outside the class.
They're not going to be accessible to the class. Let's run this and see. So you cannot access the accessible property make outside that particular class because I am not inheriting it inside the class itself. Okay?
Mm. Yeah.
So if I make it protected or even private, worse, this is even worse. This is even worse because now it does not even involve inheritance, it has to be within the class itself. Okay, so you can see again, private properties cannot be accessed from outside the class. So again, when you're defining your properties, simply scope them properly so that you know what you want to be able to access and change from outside versus what you want to work within the class itself. As I've said, if I was having an access database here, something like username and password, username, then I have my username which is root, and I have my password which is maybe say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't want these things to be public. I don't want the user to change them. Neither do I want the user to be able to read them, isn't it? So I'll
Yeah.
make them private. So it means that they can only be changed within this class itself. Okay?
Yeah.
So I can pass them, I can pass variables from the outside, but then it means that they only have to be accessible from inside the class itself for security purposes. Okay?
Yeah.
So usually we'll go public to make our work easier and everything to work flawlessly. But of course, depending on the sensitivity of the information you are dealing with. Okay?
Yeah.
So those are access modifiers. Now, the other thing I wanted us to talk about is what we call um, what we call constructors and destructors. So, what's a constructor? Constructors are special functions that are executed immediately when an object is created. Okay? So, when you're creating an object, sometimes you want to execute things immediately. Let me say, for example, I want to create a car, and when I'm creating a car, I want to be able to define the make, model, and year. So, how would I do that? So, here, what I would do is I would come here and create a function called constructor. So there will be a function here, constructor. So I'll say function. And constructor functions, you start with double underscore, then you say constructor, like that. Then the constructor can also take some parameters. So maybe here I can have make, model, and year. Sorry, make, model, and year, right? So then here when the object creates, I'll simply say this dot make is equals to make. Then I'll say this dot year equals to variable here, isn't it? This dot, I'm saying dot because in most programming languages we use the standard dot syntax. So if I say a dot and I'm talking about an arrow, it means more or less the same thing. Okay? So I'll talk about model here. So what that will do is whenever an object is created, it will be able to take three parameters. Then from those three parameters, it is able to assign them to these variables up here, which you can now be able to call down here and see how it works. So instead of writing this thing like this, so what I can do here is when I'm creating my object, like my car, is equals to a new class of type, I think car. Then now I'll pass the three things. So I will pass the make, model, and year. So here I'll say Toyota, which is crown. Let me use premium because it is crown. Then I'll say this is a 2010, like that. So if I was to do this, so I'll define the car, then since I'm passing three parameters, it will instantiate those things using the constructor method immediately. And now if I'm outputting the car, I'm able to see all those properties down below. So let's try that and see how it works out. So you can see the car is, well, that's strange. The car is, yeah, I'll say this dot make, this dot here, and this is model, and I've provided the three. Why is it not giving me that? That's strange. Let me see. What mistake did I make? Actually looks okay. It actually looks okay. Let me try this. Hmm, why is the constructor not working? Did I miss anything on the syntax? I don't think so. Let me just check the syntax. I thought I have constructors down here. Yeah, it should actually work. I don't know why it's not working because I think I tried it before and it was actually okay. Did I miss a semicolon somewhere? Let me check. I don't need to have this because I have actually defined those values. Or maybe I can use different. No, I don't think the needs are going to be different. That's strange because by default all the functions are by there. These are public. By default they are public. By default, eh? That's why sometimes I don't bother to put the public method over there. Uh, what could be could be the issue here. Let me just check this. Mm, make model here, make model here. Those are variables. Okay, so this dot make is the make. Here is the make. So that's during the construct. That's the construct. I've misspelled this. I think that's constructor. And these are double underscore. Just check that. Underscore underscore. Yeah, those are two. Then let me just echo something here. Echo the constructor is executing. There's a semicolon here. Let's see that. Uh, that's strange. Why is it not executing this constructor? Uh, that's strange. I think I've written that 1,000 times and it has always worked. Let me just counter check that. Inside my models, actually inside my database, because I have a constructor method. It's construct, not constructor. Sorry. It's construct, not constructor. It's construct, not constructor. So constructor is the method, but the name is construct. Sorry about that. Sometimes it's confusing. Yes. Well, now it's giving me a little bit more information. I didn't want that. I just wanted to use that for testing if it's working. So you can see the car is a Toyota Premium manufactured in 2010. So it works right outside the box. Sorry about that. The function name is not constructor, it is construct. Okay. So of course, when you construct is when the object is creating, and destruct is when the object is being destroyed. So when an object is being destroyed, sometimes maybe you want to do things like garbage collection, and set things like session variables and things like that. So you would use the destruct function. So underscore underscore destruct. Then of course here you are going to do things that you want it to do when the object is actually being distracted. So these are special functions that will execute immediately when objects are created or when they are destroyed. And again, usually I use this when I am connecting to a database. Every time I have a class that connects to a database, whenever I instantiate that particular class, I connect to the database immediately. Okay? So that's how constructors and destructors work. So inheritance. Let's look at inheritance. So when it comes to inheritance, and of course, object-oriented programming is all about three things: polymorphism, encapsulation, and inheritance. So polymorphism is the ability of an object to take multiple shapes. As you can see, I can create this car in several different shapes. I can create the first car with different model make here, another car with a different make, a different model, different here, and they can take very many different shapes. Then, of course, inheritance is where now I have what you call a base class, and I have the other class, which is the inherited class, which now is able to access the context of the base class. Let's look at that in action. Let's say we have a class called my vehicle. So I'll declare here class, say vehicle. Then vehicle, we have things like make, which is public, and here, which is also public. Then I can have a function here that says display vehicle, isn't it? Display vehicle, display vehicle, like that. Then of course display vehicle, what I would ask you to do, I'll simply say echo the vehicle is a, then I put the make, then of the year, simply say something like the year, right? So that's the vehicle. So this is what I'm referring to as the base class. This is the base class, right? Then I have the inheriting class or the inheritance class. Inheritance class. And this inheritance class, I want to create another class called car. Okay, and car, I want it to inherit all the properties of vehicle. So I'll say extends. Then I'll say extends what portion? It extends the vehicle class like that. Okay.
Mhm.
So I have the base class vehicle. Then I have another class called car, which inherits from a vehicle. Okay. Then the car
Yeah.
probably has an engine capacity or engine rating, right? Then this engine rating, I'll simply say when it is constructing, um, so I'll say function. Well, let me not construct it, but I have engine rating. So what I would say here is um, let's create a function that says display car details. Now, to display the car details, because the car, sorry, because the car inherits the vehicle, the car will also have year and make, and the car can also display vehicle details. So when I come down here, I can simply say echo the sorry the car is a, then I'll put the make of the year, then I'll put the year, then I'll put and is rated at, then I'll put the engine rating, then I'll put the word CC. Now you can see that when I define a car, I don't have the make, neither do I have the model. So this will have to take this, which is the current object, sorry, this which is the current object, and this which is the current object. Okay, so you can see that inside a car, I don't have a make, neither do I have a year, but I only have the engine rating. So how does this work out? Because the car extends vehicle, naturally it takes make and year automatically, and it can also be able to display its own details. So let's come down here and create a new car. So I'll simply say my car is equals to a new car. I'm not saying new vehicle, right? Then I can
Mhm.
now come and say my car. I try to change the property called make, and I make it Mercedes. Okay,
Mhm.
Mercedes. Then I take my car again. Sorry, I missed a semicolon here. I've just seen it. Then I take my car again. Then I take now the year, and I say this was 2024. It's a new Mercedes. Then I can come here and go ahead and say my car. Then I take the engine rating, which is actually a property that it has directly. And I'll say this one is equals to 3,400. Okay. So I can come down here and simply say my car. Then I will execute this method that says display car details. All right. What do you think it will do? So I have the base class here, then I have the inherited class here. Then now I'm trying to use both the properties and the methods. By the way, I can simply display my car, then I simply tell it to display the vehicle. Okay, so let's see how this works out. I'm expecting that everything should work right out of the box because car, I have a base class here called vehicle, which has make and year, and of course it has a method called display vehicle. Then I have the inherited class down here, which extends the car. So it means it takes all the properties and all the methods that are applicable to the vehicle to make the car. Then, of course, after that, I'm now able to assign all the values. Then check if how this works out. So let's run it and see. Run it over here. I have a variable make.
Mhm.
So I
So
have the variable,
that's what.
I have make here, which is a problem, line number 35. What did I miss on line number 35? 35, 35, 35 vehicle, probably, this looks okay. What is it saying? 35,
Yes,
what?
there, there is the SME. Could you SME comma?
This make? Oh, this is make. You guys are not telling me I'm referring to an object's property. I think that should now be okay. Yeah, let me try that again. So it's telling me that make expecting function or constant on line number 35. I think that's a function. That's sorry, line number 35. Where's line number 35? Well, I can say public. The public is by default. I don't know why it's. Then I have function that this. Okay, all right. So that engineer engine rating line number 45. Engine rating. So sorry. So I need to have these things as public. The access modifiers for the variables are important. So you can see I have the first part which says it's a Mercedes of the year 2004, which is actually this function over here. Okay. Then I have this other
Yeah.
function also executing, telling me that it's a Mercedes of the year 2004 and it's rated at 3400 cc. So that just demonstrates that I can have what we call a base class, then I can have the extended class or the inherited class. And by extension, if I extend a class to another one, it means it is able to access all the properties and all the methods of the superclass. Then it can be able to utilize them. So down here, as you can see, I have not declared make or rear, but I can be able to use them because they're declared in the superclass. Okay, and this is something that we are going to be playing with a lot. Inheritance is something that we'll be playing with a lot. So make sure you grasp it very very well so that now moving forward when I'm talking about object oriented programming, you know what is a superclass or what is a base class and an inherited class and how inheritance works. Because every time I am connected to a database, I'm going to have a superclass called database. Then I have other classes that now are able to fetch data, insert data, and do things like that. So the superclass database will be responsible for handling connectivity to and from the database. And generally, that's how we are going to be structuring our code moving forward. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll pause this because everything that we need to do now will just be based on defining the class and probably defining the methods on the class, then utilizing them within other portions of the application. So kindly bear with me on that, and we'll be able to see how that works out. Okay. So
Yeah.
I think I'll take a break at that. Look at just make sure that you understand how this object-oriented programming works as far as PHP is concerned. How you define a class, what are methods, what are properties, and of course how the constructor method works. Destructors maybe I don't use them a lot, but constructor method of course we use it a lot, and of course inheritance. How does inheritance work as far as PHP is concerned? There is another aspect in PHP called interfaces, but maybe I think we can do interface later on once we have been able to master we have been able to master classes effectively. Okay. So I don't want
Okay.
to complicate it right now because I know when you start doing interfaces, they are very abstract compared to classes, and sometimes you might not be able to get a grasp of exactly how it is working. So I think I will hold it at that so that we can now be able to carry forward or move forward as far as this particular is concerned. So tomorrow, I want us to start at database connectivity. I want us to see how we can connect to a database, how we can query data from a database, and things like that, so that now we can be able to, visualize how our movies database is going to work out. Okay.
Sure.
Good. So I think we are moving on fine. So I'll take a break at that. Then I'll share this particular content. From there, you can look through it. If you don't understand, then you can be able to ask questions maybe in tomorrow's class to see how we can be able to move forward.
Okay, Richard.
Okay, so you have a lovely day. We'll keep in touch tomorrow.
Okay, good night.
Don't forget about the sorting algorithms, the sort, R sort, A sort, and of course AR sort. I think those are the four that I use the most. So just
I was
make sure you need
surprised.
yeah.
I was surprised because in the other programming languages,
Mhm.
you do it yourself. You do the
Algorithm.
function. Yeah.
No, you don't need to do it here. It will actually be able to do it for you, nice and easy.
Okay. Okay.
All right, let's keep in touch tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.